Okay, good morning everybody. Yes, today as you see we're going to see William Blake poems, Blake's poems, the Sick Rose and the Tiger. But today's class is going to be concentrated on the Sick Rose. As usual at the beginning I would be very interested in listening to one or two reports, then I would see your response to both poems. After that, we're going together to discuss the Sick Rose, which is very short, but very polemic, very ambiguous. Okay? So let's see who's going to report. Yes, Layla?
Hello. Rainy day. Last lecture I was absent because of the last rainy day. The water fills all the street and the wiper of the cars was very busy working. Also at
the streets were flooded, huh?
Yeah. Also at 8:30 and 9 o'clock it was raining plenty. As a result, I can't come to the university.
I couldn't come.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I watched the lecture on the videotape. Last lecture was an introduction of the Romantic age, especially William Blake, who is the leader of the Romantic poetry, who criticized the Industrial Revolution, which is very bad to the English society at that time, which destroyed the nature as the source of the imagination of the Romantic poets, according to his perspective. So I expect that in the next lecture it will be a sad poem as an aim to express his experience.
Okay, thank you. I know it was rainy day, and it was difficult for the students to make it. To come. So having the videotape was, okay, a little bit helpful, even though we wished everybody to have come. Yes, Ola? Sorry, you come here.
Since it was romanticism, it should have been a tranquil day. Yet in this university there is no tranquility, passion, nor even individualism. All we have is tension, reason, mind, working groups, and lots of exam and assignments. So unfortunately, romanticism will never be applied on the prose nor the verse of this university.
Okay, this is a complaint, but in fact, the fact you are protesting, this is a romantic. Because, as we said, romanticism is a protest movement. It's a protest against restrictions. It's a protest against repression. It's a protest against the denial of individualism, the individual voice. But I'm not I don't know what ground you are having for complaining, so you need to make yourself clear. Okay? Good. Assuming that you have read the two poems, I think you must have a good response. A good written response. Who's having a good written response? And you can boast of it. Yes, please.
Which one to start, the Tiger or the Sick Rose?
Pardon?
Which one to start?
I don't know. It's
Let's start with the Tiger.
You come just here. Okay.
Asking question without an answer for the creation process of the tiger. Is the tiger the dark side of the human soul, with its desire to control? Why the tiger emerges in the night? Why when the stars cast their lights? God, who is responsible for good and innocence, at the same time who inserts evil and violence. But sometimes contradiction creates completion. If the tiger wasn't found, innocent the lamp wouldn't sound.
Oh, very good. So you made it poetic.
Yeah.
Good. What about the Sick Rose?
Sick Rose. William Blake tried to confirm that the rose is sick because of a worm. The rose was sick and miserable, but the worm was invisible. The poem is a description of love, beauty, and corruption, about the innocence, destruction. Too many interpretation, and I can't wait for an explanation.
Wow, good. Thank you very much. So I like your response because it's full of questions that hopefully we find answers to in this class. Now, do you have yes?
My response about the tiger is the
Hey,
first.
you come here. You come here.
Is the first impression always right? In the tiger, William Blake uses tone, theme, symbols, and rhyme to make the point that there are two sides to everything. If you come face to face with a tiger, you would probably be afraid. But if you put your fear aside, you would probably notice how beautiful the tiger is.
Very good. I like this twist because it shows how the tiger has the beautiful side as well as the horrible side. And this is a very essential point to the interpretation of Blake's poetry.
Blake uses particular words to make the tone of fear in this poem. And also, in my opinion, he uses a tiger to show that things have two sides, ugliness and beauty, fear and courage, evil and good. By looking deeper, we can see that there are two sides to everything. So the theme of this poem seems to be about the existence of evil in all the creation.
What about goodness? Because you started by saying everything has two sides. Mm-hmm. So evil and goodness are there. Mm-hmm. So I think, without evil there is no goodness. Can you say this?
Without evil there is no goodness?
Yes.
Of course, yes.
Okay, good.
Also, the poem requires deeper understanding from the reader. I think the poem to me is beautiful not only because it's a melodic, but because it's ironic. It starts off by questioning.
I don't know what you mean by melodic. Do we have any melody in it?
I think there is an...
Yeah, I don't know. We have to go through the meter. Oh, Rose, thou art sick.
Yes.
The invisible worm. I don't know what is the melody. But, okay, let's see. You might be right if we discover the melody of the spondee or the iambic, because, this poem is very strange because, the main meter is spondee, two unstressed and stressed, but you have variation.
Yeah. It starts off by questioning how could be so power as to make something so perfectly. Then, as the poem goes on, it leads you into wonder what power would make something so vicious.
You mean you're talking about the tiger, which is melodic?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it is very melodious. You're right.
That's it.
Good. So I would be satisfied now in receiving your oral response. Yes. What do you want to say? Okay. What do you want to say about the sick rose? Do you want to tell me why was the rose sick?
Because the rose sick because the industrial revolution and the corruption.
The industrial revolution and the corruption. How do you know that? So you want to read something about it? And okay, so if we say, it's a good point to start with, because you're very clever. You started by interpreting. I know, because this poem is ambiguous. Now you just start to interpret, and you jump to the conclusion that the invisible worm is the industrial revolution, and the rose is what? Huh? Nature. Okay, nature or woman. These are what the critics, said. Okay, but let's see how nature is, abused by. Do you think that nature can be abused? Yes, please.
You told us before that Blake's.
I shouldn't have told you.
Always talks about sexuality. So I think it is there is.
No, we're talking about we're talking first about nature. So my question is, how can nature be abused by, the industrial revolution? Yes, Sola? Pollution. Yeah. Because mechanization means pollution. Mechanization means what? Pollution. Mechanization means noise.
Yeah.
So like the countryside is going to lose its serenity. Mechanization means like the nature of the simple life or the simple countryside, people will be transformed, like because people will be working in factories. So the social structure will be changing, you know. People will be moving away from cities, from the countryside to live around the factories. So their social life will be changed, you know. Yes?
Also the behavior pollution.
The behavior pollution. Okay, I don't know what you mean by behavior pollution, but it's good.
That like men are turning from like, or not just men, and also women turning from innocence to like to be hard because of their
Yeah, you know.
machines and like hard working.
So do you want to say like they are becoming more materialistic?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah, like we said earlier, the romantic poetry came as a protest, and here, like Blake, he's showing his protest to the change that happened to nature. He was satisfied before. He wanted to go back to the nature side and only to like tranquility and serenity, but at the same time here, he's got the machine coming to invade their beauty of the nature. It's coming to invade their privacy, the quietness, the atmosphere. Everything has turned into smoke, into noise.
So you think this interpretation is very appealing? One interpretation, because when we are talking about symbolism, like we should not be satisfied with a single interpretation. Otherwise, the symbol will lose its force. So, okay, I'm very happy. Like you start by like interpreting the poem, but as we said, like it's very important to read the poem aloud. And did you have, or did you give yourself the chance to read this poem aloud? Okay. Do you have anything about Blake to say? Okay. Yes. Who read it aloud? Who read it aloud? Yes. How did it sound to you?
It sounds craggy, like
Very.
soft.
Very sad. What do you mean by that? Sad?
No, I found it very tough.
Very tough.
Yeah, I found it very weird, strange. Like it's not like how a normal poem would be.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
It was very there's a lot of destruction in the form. From the way I felt, it didn't rhyme. It didn't.
Yeah, I think it has rhyme. Come on.
Not much.
Like if you look here, you have worm and the storm.
Yeah,
You have joy and destroy.
I don't know. I felt like the meter was
So-
really weird.
No, the meter was weird. Oh, Rose, this is like too, stressed. This is like what we call, spondy, And then thou are sick, Thou are sick, it is, another meter, So, but here, there is a meter in the poem, but it's not regular meter. Weird. Okay, we can talk about this later.
From the first line, "Oh Rose," I feel there is a sad declaration and sympathy and unity. So I expected something.
Oh Rose, like oh Rose, like is he that what calling? Oh Rose, this is what we call in poetry. He's calling for. This is what we call apostrophe. Apostrophe. What is apostrophe? Like somebody calling. To call, it is apostrophe. Yes. Apostrophe means calling. Let me write it here. It starts with apostrophe, like calling. Good. Yes. How many of you have tried to read it aloud? 1, 2? Very bad. I told you, do not respond to the poem without reading it aloud several times. Does anybody want to read it aloud for us? Yes. You just come here and look at the poem here Huh? No, you come here. Or you want to stand here. But I prefer like here. You come.
O rose, thou art sick, the invisible worm that flies in the night, in the howling storm, has found out thy bed of crimson joy, and his dark secret love does thy life destroy.
Very good, thank you. Does anybody want to read it differently? To give it more force, more passion? Nobody? Do you want me to read it?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, Rose, thou art sick, the invisible worm that flies at night in the howling storm has found out thy bed of a crimson joy, and his dark secret love does thy life destroy. You know? So I would read it like in this way. Very sad.
Passionate.
Yeah, and at the same time passionate. Do you like it? Why?
Because it seems
Disappointing.
Yes.
Why disappointing?
I don't like the sad atmosphere.
Yeah, you don't like the sad atmosphere. You want like the festive atmosphere. But like, you know, in life there should be sadness and happiness, you know. I think, you know, Blake here, yes, he depicts to us a very sad image of a dying rose, a sick rose. So, oh Rose, thou art sick. It's a declaration, it's apostrophe, you know. Thou art sick. He's declaring that the rose is sick. What makes it sick? It is the invisible worm. The invisible worm. So that flies in the night, in the howling storm, has found out thy bed of a crimson joy, and does his dark secret love, and his dark secret love does thy life destroy. So you started by your response thinking that the rose, it stands for the countryside, and the worm stands for the Industrial Revolution. Okay. What other interpretation do you have for this?
I think this one applies to like when we studied in criticism to the reader response theory. I think it's relatable. Like any reader would relate to this and interpret it according to their own problem. Like for example, if you say you've got something going really good and something really screws it up, then you can apply this. So I think it has a lot of interpretations, and it depends on.
So it's very good. Like now, if we are looking at Blake, William Blake, he is giving space to the reader, and that was not the norm, like in the 18th century. So he's giving us place and space to imagine. So there is a place for imagination here, to imagine the ramification, the implication of the symbol itself. Okay. But I don't know, how is a question which I want to ask, how is the rose made sick? Huh? How is the rose made sick?
It's like an attack, like the invisible war. It's like an inside attack.
So it's attacking it, it's eating it? Huh?
I'm not sure, but in my opinion, I think the rose was sick because of the people were busy in working in the factories. So they are not find the time to.
So let's take the literal meaning. The rose is sick because of the invisible worm. So
It's being eaten up.
yeah, it's being eaten up. This is one possibility, or the worm itself is carrying, a disease itself, that it, the virus. So these are two possibilities. O rose, thou art sick. Thou. Why do we use thou? When do we use thou? O rose, thou art sick. What is the significance of using thou in this poem? Of course, here, what figure of speech do we have? What figure of speech? It is personification. O rose, thou art sick. But why thou? Yeah, he wants us to gain sympathy. So like the rose is being glorified. The rose is being something as valuable. O rose, thou art sick. He's, celebrating, glorifying the rose. The invisible worm. The invisible worm. The invisible worm that flies in the night, in the howling storm, has found out thy bed of a crimson joy. I don't know. Do you see, do you think that this worm is invisible? Do you think it is invisible? What is a worm? What is a worm? It's an insect. But do you think this worm is invisible? Huh?
I think.
Does, the word invisible literally mean that it is not seen?
Maybe because it's too small and people doesn't notice it, so they don't give it so much attention. So to people it would be invisible, but in reality it is
it is visible.
Invisible.
It is invisible.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Visible and
It is visible and invisible.
yeah.
Yeah. So what do you mean by invisible and visible? And it is there.
Yeah.
There is a worm. It has a shape. It has a shape but it is invisible. How? People do not notice it. It becomes, it comes abruptly. It comes it steals, it sneaks, in this way, and nobody feels that it is coming. There is secrecy in it. Yes?
That people are visible the outcome or the value of the material of the industrial revolution and of the factories, but they are not aware of the harmful results of this aspect.
Yeah,
So there is no awareness. Right, thank you. Yes, please.
It is invisible, but when it attacks the rose,
It becomes visible.
it becomes invisible. It's visible, but it's invisible when it attacks.
According to the Industrial Revolution, it is invisible because it is a part of our life. So we can't feel it.
It's very important, when you interpret this, to demonstrate, to give examples of, how sometimes, we are taken by the materialistic aspect to the extent that we destroy our life. How? And this is invisible. The materialistic life might take us away from, let's say, performing, spirituality, and then we, so it is, seemingly it is beautiful, seemingly it is good, but the dark side is there, because you are losing. You are gaining on one side, but you are losing on the other side. It's very cryptic poem, very symbolic poem. It's very short, but the paradox is, it is very complex. This is the paradox. Very short, but very complex. The invisible worm that flies in the night, in the howling storm. So look here, O rose, thou art sick. When he talked about the rose, this one sentence. But when he was talking about the, if we look at the grammar here, like the invisible, it's an adjective, which is what we call attributive adjective. It's an adjective which describes what comes after it. It is, it is followed by what? The invisible worm that flies in the night. What is this? It's more description. What do we call this clause? It's adjective clause. So it seems like this worm is, mysterious. It needs definition. Like the poet is striving to define this, to say what is it? So look here, it is invisible. You don't feel it. It is there. This is very dangerous. It is there, but you are not aware of its presence, the time of its coming, because it sneaks, when? At night, in the darkness, and it is accompanied by what? By the howling storm. So, what is the howling storm like? Can anybody make like a storm? Huh? So it should be like what?
Very noisy.
Very noisy. Should be like this. You very distracting. But no, how does it sound? Roaring? I think howling. It would be like this. This is like the howling storm. Huh? At night, it's like this. Imagine yourself. It is darkness. There is no electricity, like what is happening in Gaza. And it is dark in your room. You don't have a candle, and outside it makes like this. It's very frightening. It is. But howling here, what figure of speech it is? Onomatopoeia. Yeah, onomatopoeia, because the word is taking. Look here, how this invisible worm is wrapped by an atmosphere of secrecy. It is very secretive, and it is accompanied by dangerous things. Yeah. It is night, it is invisible, and it comes with, this sound. Has found out thy bed. Now, so like finding out the bed, is it an act which is a mere coincidence? Or is it more deliberate? Finding out the bed, is it a deliberate or coincidental? Is it by chance? No. How do you know?
Finding out that someone
has found out. It means like she was searching. It means that, what is happening to the rose is something happening with predetermination.
Yeah, predetermined.
This is a legal term. Sometimes when you say a crime took place it is a premeditated crime, it means like, it was planned before. Premeditated. Good. Has found out thy bed. Thy bed. Of course, like this poem, like understanding the literal meaning is not difficult. Now, what we might need later to think of, what is this storm? What is the bed? What is the rose? What does this stand for? There are many possible interpretations. So, and this is like what Blake is giving us. Blake is presenting to us poetry which invites us to imagine. And that was something against the expectation of his time. That's why they described him mad, because he was appealing to ourselves, he was appealing to our feelings, he was appealing to our emotion and imagination. So he was writing against the fashion, against, the teachings, the culture of his time. That's why he was dangerous, that's why he was crazy, and he was marginalized by society, ostracized. Has found out thy bed, still keeps, look, the same level of veneration. Thou and thy, thy bed of a crimson joy. What is crimson joy? Like crimson joy. Huh? Yeah, but like crimson joy, like sometimes we have something, crimson joy. Crimson is a color, but crimson, sometimes we say crimson fever. Crimson fever, which is very fatal, crimson fever. So crimson joy seems to be contradictory. Crimson is something fatal, but joy is something beautiful. Crimson joy. It is oxymoron. Thank you. It is oxymoron. Now again, this is one of the things which might need, effort from us to interpret it. But let us, because I think at the beginning of the course we try to flatten some paradoxes and oxymorons. And, crimson joy here is problematic in this poem. But what is the crimson joy is like? Like, can we give an example of crimson joy in our life? It's difficult, huh?
Maybe he means by love, for example.
Yeah, okay, we'll talk about this later, but let's see what is crimson joy. Crimson, painful joy. Painful joy. This is what I want to say. Painful, is there painful, agonizing joy?
Yeah.
Imagine, imagine a lady is giving a birth to a baby.
Yeah.
Don't you think this is a crimson joy?
Yeah.
It is. Huh?
When you say the ghosts and the Jews are killed because of the joyful.
Yeah, it's a crimson joy. Yeah, very good. Like when you see bulls are slaughtered, sometimes in hideous manner, because some people do not know how to slaughter. So it's a crimson joy. Huh?
Literature class. I remember when we took this poem with Miss Ahla, she interpreted this crimson joy that when a woman and a man.
Yeah, now I mean, yes.
They may born children with diseases like crimson joy.
Yeah, but the crimson, it is painful joy. It is painful joy. Now, and this is like a central oxymoron, how joy is painful. Sometimes, like, Satan decorates for us, bad things. Decorates for us. So, for example, stealing or cheating. You cheat and you succeed, you get high marks, but this is crimson joy. You feel sorry. You feel sorry. See what I mean?
Justification.
Yes, you feel sorry for this. It's a crimson joy. It's not like good. Yes, you succeeded, but deep down at your hearts, you don't feel, the real happiness, because you don't feel the real joy. It's a crimson joy. See what I mean? Sometimes, Satan decorates the bad things for us as beautiful things. This is like an example of crimson joy.
Like martyrdom.
Yeah.
Like, because it's a good.
Very good. This is a good example.
Very painful.
So imagine like
A mother.
a mother of a martyr, or the martyr himself. You know, the one who is sacrificing his life for the sake of his country. It's a crimson joy. It's a painful joy. Why? Because, you know, he's happy because he sacrificed his life for the sake of his country, to defend his people, you know. So it's not limited, you know, to one. And we need to exert effort to interpret this. To interpret this. I'm trying to raise your awareness about the cryptic elements of this poem in order to further interpret it next time. Because next time we're going to interpret it more and more to see different interpretations of this woman. And his dark secret love. Like, look here, when he talks about the worm, he says his. But when he talks about the rose, so thou. So we have different attitudes here. An attitude of respect and veneration, and an attitude of, let's say, disrespect. And attitude of disparagement. You know what's mean disparagement? التحقير يعني الاحتقار, disparagement. So he's not happy with it. And his dark secret love. Now this is problematic. Now dark secret love. We know that love is not dark. Yeah, a secret, but you know, dark secret. This seems like it is contradictory. You know, how come like dark secret love? Again, we have to think, in what way can love be dark? In what way can love be fatal? Because the common sense perception of love is, you know, it's good. It's constructive. However here, and his dark secret love. What is dark secret love? Yeah? Prohibited. Good. Yeah. Betrayal. What do you mean by betrayal?
The love would harm someone else. It would not be right to love someone else.
You know, hypocrisy, you want to say. Hypocrisy. Hypocrisy, because in hypocrisy, people try to show that they love. They, you know, infidelity, thank you. Like, hypocrisy is an example of dark secret love. You see what I mean? You show the, you know, love for people, for other people, for other creatures, but this is not a real love. It is just a means to an end. A means, yeah, it is very deceiving. And sometimes in our life, we have this kind of dark secret love. We try to show that we respect, we venerate, we love, but in fact we are not. You see what I mean? This is very deceptive. But can you give me an example of, you know, dark secret love? It's love itself, but it is dark, it is destructive. Yes?
When you love someone and you don't anyone to be very close to him, so you will just to put him in a prison, and you will be with him. So this will be destructive love.
So yes, when you love and you want to monopolize this love, because when you monopolize this love, it means you are imprisoning, you are not giving this person a chance to interact with other people, so he develops into, you know, a very dependent personality. I think you're right. Sometimes we commit a fatal mistake. If you go to psychology and education, sometimes if we love our children too much, we destroy them, we spoil them. And a lot of cases in which, like, children were given freedom, their parents spoiled them. What happened when those people were spoiled? They were not, you know, able to depend on themselves.
They don't have a personality.
They don't have a personality. They develop into like different, not just dependent human beings. Like they cannot, find their niche in society. You see what I mean? So it seems like this poem is very interesting, very short, and very mysterious. What I want you is to try to find some more interpretation. The rose could be what? Could be a teacher, or the worm could be a student, or vice versa. Yeah. How can a teacher be a rose, and how can the students be the worm, or vice versa? Yes? A man and a woman. Friends. The Industrial Revolution and, So we have many interpretations. Next time we're going to go deeper into this poem, interpreting it, and to go to the aesthetics of this poem. Okay? Thank you very much, and see you next time.